Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cartridge Club. I'm Sean, formerly Player One, and it's great to be back to talk about this month's Game of the Month, Warcraft Rumble. Warcraft Rumble is a 2023 free-to-play mobile tower defense and action strategy video game developed and published by Blizzard Entertainment. Warcraft Rumble is set, surprisingly enough, in the Warcraft universe. It was released for iOS and Android on November 3rd, 2023. Today, I am very happy to be sitting here today with two panelists talking with this game, the first of which, the founder and father of the Dungeon Dojo, Mr. Wochi. Hi, Wochi.
Hello, everybody. My name is Wochi, and as Sean already introduced me brilliantly, I am the founder of the Dungeon Dojo. I play Warcraft Rumble. I am partner with Warcraft Rumble, but I also mainly play World of Warcraft regularly, daily, and among other games. But that's my main effort. The Dungeon Dojo, for those who don't know, is a official partner with Blizzard community that hosts and helps people getting through end game content. But we also do fun events. We do a lot of giveaways. We do things for collectors, and now we just branching out in different venues to see what else can we add to our menu.
Perfect, Wochi. So glad you're here. Happy to have you. Wochi's also a Warcraft Rumble partner. But he has the inside scoop on all the hot new game modes that are coming. We'll be grilling him later for those. Yeah. And our second panelist, a man who needs no introduction, from Bonus Roll Productions, it's Ease.
I don't know if that's true. I feel like I need some sort of introduction. But that was an introduction, so I'll take it. Yeah, I'm Ease. I am the executive producer of Bonus Roll Productions and the show host of the Realm Maintenance and Wrath Babies podcast. So I talk a lot about Blizzard games on Realm Maintenance, and Wrath Babies is specifically about World of Warcraft. And I play recently. I've been playing a lot of Warcraft Rumble, and been talking quite a bit about it on Realm Maintenance. So I'm very excited to be here. Very excited.
Excellent. I am also excited. Warcraft Rumble, when it was first announced, I love the Warcraft universe. And when Rumble was first announced, I was like, oh, yeah, I need a new toilet game.
Pretty much.
And that doesn't mean the game's bad. It's where I do most of my mobile phoning. I'm certain my phone is disgusting if you were to check out the blacklight or whatever. But yeah, a lot of mobile. I saw a new video this week where it's like, anyway, your toilets are dirty, folks. Don't use your phone in the bathroom. Warcraft Rumble. Let's
talk about
What a great start, Sean.
What a great start.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've hosted these. It's not my fault.
Yeah,
and this is also why they don't let me host them anymore.
But to your point,
probably that's the reason.
I mean, it's like many phone games, it is a great thing to play in short spurts. Because that's, I mean, that's maybe a better, different kind of spurts, perhaps. Oh my gosh, this is not.
We're going down a very bad line. I believe this is getting dirty very quickly.
I'm going to give a quick overview of the game. So, as we mentioned, it's a mobile tower defense game, and it's set in the Warcraft universe. It has a single-player game mode, which I think sets it a bit apart from some of its contemporaries, as well as co-op multiplayer options. And let's talk about the different options there, the different game modes, and let's dive into it. One of the modes it has is a campaign mode. Mochi, do you want to talk about the campaign mode for Rumble?
Basically, the campaign mode spins around all the major zones of Azeroth. I will say Azeroth, but is mostly Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, because it's kind of set in a sort of alternative parallel dimension line, whatever, of Classic or Vanilla, or you want to call it. So it doesn't have all the major character that you might expect in the modern expansions. And some of the characters that are present are either not alive still, or they are very young. So, for example, we have a very young Jaina. Cairn Bloodhoof is still there around. We have Grommash. So we have a lot of characters that in current WoW are either older or don't exist anymore. So it is also, and you basically have, I believe, 6 quests in each of the areas that you have to do, and they have an item, not a level to be facing. So you need to progress in that. You need to have gaining levels on your characters to be able to deal with the threats. And once the entirety of the campaign is basically over, or at a certain level, if I remember correctly, you unlock an heroic mode, so you can replay the same missions, but bosses have additional abilities. Of course, the difficulty is higher, so it gives you quite a nice challenge throughout the campaign, which is a nice little touch.
Yeah, it's 15 zones, 75 stages, and like what you mentioned, at 50 sigils, which is your level system, you unlock the heroic, which then gives you all this. It's just the same maps, but with different modifiers on there. Wochi mentioned a lot of Warcraft names that if somebody didn't play the Warcraft universe, might not be familiar with. Do you have to be a World of Warcraft or a Warcraft 3 enthusiast to enjoy this game?
No, absolutely not. I think it's accessible enough. Obviously, if you have played any World of Warcraft and probably to some degree Warcraft strategy games back in the day, you will have some recognition of specifically the map, maybe even some characters, but that doesn't really, it doesn't detract from the actual gameplay, right? It's flavor. And so it's fun for us who have played a lot of Warcraft, a lot of WoW, but other than that, I mean, it's simple enough to jump in. The zones are very, we say zones. I don't know if that translates to people who haven't played WoW, but the different maps have different levels. I guess that's kind of the easiest way to translate that.
I feel like zones and maps and levels are all unique. Like we can use,
we could probably use
those
that.
Those are pretty game agnostic terms.
That's probably true. But I think that, you know, there might be some things that are surprising, or like what's up with all these like fish people? If you haven't played any Warcraft,
that is a great question. Even if you have played Warcraft, you might be wondering what is up with all these fish people.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% yes. But yeah, it is amazing. And myself, a couple of the names, I wasn't recognizing them immediately. And then I had to recollect who they actually were, where I found them the first time. So maybe some of the bosses or some of the NPC that you find were maybe very old dungeon bosses of like when you were leveling in vanilla, like old Murkai or what was well, Hogger is the most famous one clearly, but there was a couple of them that said, this is not, yes, there was in that boss in that place. So even veterans, I need to find the place exactly where they are, but yeah, you can play this game without any knowledge.
And also a lot of these characters are not at all existent in previous lore. Like if you they just made up some stuff, which is fun too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I didn't realize that. I obviously haven't played it enough, or maybe my brain is making pathways that don't exist. Sometimes it does that. But I'm okay with it. My brain is a magical place. I want to stick on the PvE topic right now. Are you? How do you feel talking about the dungeon system? Because World of Warcraft has a dungeon system that's very different.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to draw any parallels. I would say it's completely different to the WoW dungeons. So you have no advantage from playing WoW going into Rumble. Really, what dungeons are a set of 3 maps that you have to do in a row. You can take breaks in between, but if you finish the first one, you go on to the second one. And if you fail the second one, you have to restart. There are some extra lives that you can use, but really they're meant to go from 1 through 3. And they have different rotating dungeons. And so there's the Dead Mines, which have 3 bosses. And then there's Black Fathom Depths, which is also have 3 different bosses, maps. And I think there are 4 dungeons that they rotate.
I believe
through.
so.
There's Dead Mines, Black Fathom Depths, Nomergon, and
I'm just double checking it. Yeah.
Either way, they're rotating on a weekly schedule, and you go through it with the same army. If you've played any tower defense thing previously, you might be familiar with how you build your army with different units to make sure you have the best way to counter different maps. But you have to use the same army throughout all 3 dungeon levels. And if you finish the dungeon, if you're able to complete the final level, then you get bonus levels to your army, so you can have even more power to go into the next one, and it scales, so you can keep doing it until you have 3 upgrades for every mini slot. Sounds like a lot, but really you do dungeons to have more levels to your minis.
Yes, exactly. And just for clarification, is Dire Maul, Dead Mines, and Gnome Regan. There you go. Those are the 3 dungeons.
And Black Fathom Depths.
Yeah, probably they might have added now because it is not in the list. But yeah, fair enough. But yeah,
I love it. So I want to stick in the PvE realm. We're going to talk about raids. We're going to talk about the Arclight Surge, which is a fun mechanic that happens. We're going to talk about questing. But you mentioned armies. I think that's a good segue. You guys are like professional at this, so it feels like a good segue. So we're going to slide right into armies. Wochi, can you tell me what is the breakdown of an army? How do the armies look?
So each faction, which are there's 5 factions in the game. There's Horde Alliance, there is Beast, there is Blackrock, and there is Undead. So there are 5 major factions. Each faction has a number of leaders, which are what basically decides the type of composition that your team is going to have, because every leader, once leveled, will basically determine the speciality of the other 6 slots that you're going to have in your army. So, for example, there are leaders I prefer, like Sylvanas having 3 undeads, of course, as a main one, and are rotating other 3 type of miniatures for the other 3. So, if you get the perfect synergy among all the troops, you get additional level of bonuses, which make your miniatures more powerful regardless of their level. So it's always very good to try to maximize synergies between your leader and the rest of the army. Doesn't mean that Sylvanas only has to have only undeads, but she has to have at least 3, which are the ones you cannot change at all. But among those 3 undead, there are subclasses like it can be an undead ranged, an undead tank, and so on and so on. So you can really compose each team according to the challenges that the mission you have to do requires. So if you are going, for example, in a mission or even in a dungeon that requires a lot of towers destruction, you will need somebody that has a siege ability, which is something that deals more damage to structures. So you can kind of either change entirely the leader and change completely the composition, or trying to fit in the perfect composition for what you have, of course, to make sure that all the threats in a mission or in a dungeon are dealt with. So it's kind of the game plays itself once you start and you just play the miniature in a sequence according to the goal you have. But literally, you need to make sure that you are aware how a mission works before you decide, okay, I want to go with this leader.
Okay. How do I unlock? Maybe you could tell me, how do I unlock the different miniatures for the 6 for the armies and the different leaders?
Well, now we're getting into the lovely currency system. Eventually,
it's a pay-to-win game. Okay, I got it now.
There you go. Exactly. The first thing that you have to choose. No, I mean, that's honestly a very important topic to talk about when it comes to mobile games, right? A lot of people think, oh, it's a mobile game, it's going to be whaling, right? People are going to the people who pump in the money are going to be the ones who actually can play this game. The rest of us are going to be left in the dust. And if you do end up in really high PvP brackets, absolutely. We'll talk about PvP in a little bit. Eventually, people who pump in money are going to have more levels. But if your focus is the PvE side and even lower PvP, that's really not an issue. So we'll probably touch a little bit more on monetization in a little bit, but just disclaimer, it is not a pay to win for most people. I would definitely not say that. But from completing missions and then further on from completing challenges and some other events, you earn gold, and that's the main currency where you can buy new minis, you can buy upgrades to minis. Eventually, after you unlock them, there's a little store system where you can just kind of accumulate them as you go. And hot tip, it's always good to buy all the minis before you start upgrading them. So just because you get there's a few different systems here at play, but we'll probably get back to them in a little bit. But you buy them with gold, and that just unlocks them straight out of the bat. And then you can buy more versions of these minis to level them up, to upgrade them to uncommon, and then to rare, and then to epic, and even to legendary. But that at that point, that's when we get into the monetization, where you probably need, if you want more than even one legendary, you're probably going to have to start spending some money in this game. But that's the core of how to unlock new minis, is through a little storefront where you can spend your in-game earned gold, which you can just earn from just playing the game. You can, of course, buy more for real-life money, but you can also just earn it in-game.
Yes, exactly.
How long is so let's say that this does not describe me. I love spending money. The first thing I do when I get a new game is look to where I can put my credit card. But let's say that's not me. Let's I'm the target.
That's, yeah. You want to talk
Let's say I'm not like that. I'm not a spender. I want to just enjoy games for free. I don't want to spend money. How long does it take to level up my army? Or I guess, let me rephrase it this way. Can I complete the whole PvE campaign without spending money in a reasonable amount of time? Could I do it in a month if I played every day?
Absolutely, yes.
100%.
Yeah?
100%, yes.
So the main issue, like if you just want to experience it and you want to see all the levels, yeah, it's really not that difficult. You might do some daily quest grinding to level up your armies. There is, in addition to unlocking these armies, you can also earn experience, both from finishing missions, but also quests, which is specifically, you say, oh, I want more experience for this specific unit, and you can level it up through quests. And then you can also just get rewards from different sources to level up your minis. You're probably going to have to find that at certain amounts of times, you're going to reach a level where, okay, this next mission is too high level. I need to grind some experience. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. So you can either do quests, like I was talking about, to target specific minis, where it will always give you the one of the lowest levels minis in your current army. So if you put like, oh, I really want to level up this mini, you can put it in your army, and if it's the lowest level, you will always get a choice to level that up.
Yes.
So they're very like good ways to target that. In a month, if you spend a lot of time, no issues. You might have to. You're probably gonna find yourself needing to farm some experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is also an additional thing that at certain specific level of collection level or leveling your account, the game also gives you choices of getting an additional leader or unlocking some specific things. So if you end up in a situation in which you didn't buy, for example, Tyrion, and you didn't want to spend money on Tyrion forging, the game gives you a choice. Do you want Jane or Tyrion? Okay, then let's go. Let's unlock that character now, so you have an additional leader and so on. The thing that, of course, was mentioning that at some point you might end up needing also money for to spend on even the PvE campaign, is because at some point you will, of course, need to maximize your income of gold. You have to do all the heroic quests, and you have to complete each mission with one team of each faction. So if you end up in a situation in which you are missing some key component for your army, you might struggle to complete the entirety of the heroic missions. But until then, you probably already accumulated enough gold to just buy outright the characters you need. And the good thing is, the moment you buy a miniature, whatever level you are, you're not going to buy it at level 1. So it's going to be always, I believe, a couple of level lower than some of your main ones. So if you have an army that is like level 17, the new leader or new miniature you buy is going to come around the level 14 to 15. So you don't have to spend ages to level up the miniature. Kind of time at a time in which you can actually manage to fit it in and just go with it.
Okay, cool. So we talked about dungeons. Dungeons are a 3-map experience. Are questing just a single map? Is it just, are quests just one map for, or does it also change?
It's one map per boss. So they're like The setup of each boss is there is a boss at the end, of course, but the pathing is different. The towers are different, so it's like facing a World of Warcraft dungeon, and you go from boss room to boss room, and each
Mhm.
boss room has its own mechanics to face.
Okay.
So,
And
which is
And
very
for
good,
the
yeah.
quests, and like you were mentioning, you can they're always randomized. Every time you start a quest, it will be a random map of one that you've already completed. So
Okay, cool.
if you won't get a map that you've never seen before, but once you've done all of them, you could get any random map at any random time. And sometimes that kind of there's a couple maps where, like Wochi was talking about, you want a specific tactic. Maybe there's like a flying boss and you need ranged attacks to kill it. And for some reason, if you don't really have a lot of ranged, it could be hard to finish that quest. Good thing is you can just leave, change your army, and then go back in. You'll get the same quest every time
Exactly.
until you same map in that quest until it either refreshes every 30 minutes or you complete it.
Yes.
Every time I do a quest, it just seems to be that one big open box. It's like it's just a big box. There's no pathing. It's just here's a big empty box. I think it might be the Gurabashi arena, but it's just a big.
It's probably the one with the gorilla. It's
Yeah,
the gorilla
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like there's like 2 checkpoints on the side, and it's just an open box, and it's just like good luck.
Pretty much.
Have fun.
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's talk about Arc Light Surge. This game, when it was originally announced, it was called Warcraft Arc Light Rumble, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and
they
go.
go.
Oh, sorry. I believe that the arc light is like the spark that animates the miniature. So this is why it was something that makes them become alive, which means that also everything that you see that you put them on the field and they just start to move automatically is like the sort of like a pinball energy type of vibe on this arcade, and they just come alive and do their own thing. But yeah, you were saying these arc light surges.
You want to just explain sort of how the arc light surges work? Because for somebody who's playing, they might not realize all of a sudden, a zone in their map is glowing with blue electricity.
Yes, so basically, periodically throughout the week, a number of areas become arc light surged. So you basically go back into area that you have already visited. And you're going to be doing the same bosses and the same arenas that you already did, but there are going to be conditions that, for example, you can only use a random team of Horde and Beast. You don't use your own team, but you're going to be using something that the computer gives to you, and you just make do. And it will end up basically being a mixture of creatures, but also leaders. So you're going to end up having a number of Horde leaders, a number of beast miniatures, all in the same map. Because, of course, just a quick disclaimer, you can only have one leader in your army, and the rest has to be 6 troops. So you can't have Kayan and Jaina in the same team. Is only going to be on one. So in these fun maps, you get a bunch of miniature. But also, for example, there is all your damage is doubled. The damage that everybody does is doubled. So you end up in a situation in which if you have a team with a lot of explosion ranged attack, you just don't touch anybody else. They just blow up everybody, and you just go through it and blaze through the map, which is so they are like situational modifiers that help you doing these maps. But of course, the difficulty is still the same difficulty as the area level that you are doing. So it's kind of a nice diversification, and you get additional gold. Hence why we were going back to say there's a lot of way to gain gold weekly that you can spend on upgrades.
So it's advantageous to do it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I was going to say, if you are someone who doesn't want to spend a lot of money in this game, then surges are going to be your way forward. Just honestly coming in, doing the surges. At this point, if you do a full map of a surge, which is pretty quick, you'll get all your daily quests done, and you'll get a good chunk of gold. And these surges scale with your army level. So if you have an army that is lower level, but you want to play it, you can always take it into a surge. So even though, like, if the first zone that you ever conquered, that's like level 1 through 5, right? Very low level. But when it surges, it actually goes up level to where you're at currently. So
Cool.
it should always never be in a like too difficult.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of ways that we can play the game to enjoy it based on really what you want to do. PvP, which we're going to get to, PvE, lots of different modes, and it seems like a lot of fun. I myself am a pretty casual. Like I'm going to dump the money in. Here's the sad thing: I'm going to dump money in just so I can finish the normal leveling campaign because that's how I function. Like, I want to be able to just go through this quickly, please.
Yeah.
But that's me. And I think everybody should play games the way they want to play games. But what if I want to do PvE content with my friends? Is there any way that I could do like a siege or a raid with my friends if I wanted to?
And now we're talking, Sean. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty. Yeah. So there's a whole social system called guilds, which if you played WoW, you know all about it. There's obviously other games that have that as well, where you basically it's kind of a social network where you can join a guild and you can invite your friends, or you can just join a random guild, and you get rewards just for being in a guild. There's some like war chests that you get the more you play. But that's kind of just passive, honestly. I've never had to target it. It just kind of happens if you have a big enough guild. Mm-hmm. But there are these pretty recent, just in the past month or two, they've introduced the first co-op modes, which are siege modes, which is very similar to a dungeon, but with 2 players. And you have to be in the same guild to play with someone. So if you go into sieges, they're also on a rotation, so they're not always available. But if you go into a siege, you choose a map, you choose a leader, and then you say, okay, I'm ready. Everyone in your guild will get a notification that says, oh, Ease wants to do a siege. And then they can click it and they can enter in. And they're really fun. They are basically like dungeons. They're a little more advanced. Right now, Siege... the only siege we have is Stormwind. I assume we'll be getting more, but right now we have Stormwind. There's 3 bosses, a little bit more involved than normal dungeons. It's very helpful if you're either on voice with someone or if you're able to conversate, like have some chatting back and forth, because you do need to you need to collaborate more than just blasting it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And if you go through the first map with Tyrion Fordring, one of the leaders, you can't play Tyrion anymore in that siege. So for each third map, or for every map, you need to choose a new leader with a new army, which is probably good to choose your 3 highest. So there's a reason to not just focus on one leader in general when you're leveling up. And then by the end of it, if you complete all 3, you get a reward, which, depending on how much you play, like Wochi was talking about earlier, in dungeons, it upgrades specific units. So like he was saying that Sylvanas, she gives some bonuses to undead minis, but completing a siege lets you have just one slot where you can put any old mini. It doesn't matter what type of mini it is. It gets the upgrade anyway. It gets the bonuses anyway, no matter what type of mini it is.
Oh, like a wild card. Nice.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, you pretend like you don't know what you're talking about, but that's even the right word for it.
Weird.
How
You're so
weird. How weird.
It's very strange. Wochi, why don't you break down raids for us? I remember playing Vanilla Warcraft back in the day and going up against Ragnaros and Molten Core. Is there a way for me to do this in Warcraft Rumble?
Yes, there is a raid mechanic in there, and against I believe that the first one was Onyxia. I wasn't ever able to do that because by the time that I was farming this this type of content, there was not many other people around me that were able to help out, and my army at the time wasn't yet ready for raid. Sounds like something that you want to do, and is you can see the pictures of all these fantastic raid of Onyxia, but I never actually be able to see it because I never was able to do it. But it is an amazing mechanic you can do, and now they actually announced Molten Core that is going to be also be part of the rotations. So it's very, very interesting how it's going to be sorted with Ragnaros as a final boss is top notch. We have Lucifron and Magmadar, Garen, Gehennas, and Shazra, Baron Geddon and Golemag and Ragnaros so they are like 3 wings and a final boss, which is again something that is something that you want to do with a high respect team, very well leveled up, possibly all golds in at least gold in every slot of your army. Gold meaning top
Rank.
upgrades for each slot. And I felt that with my little level 20, 21 army, I was getting destroyed in some of the heroic dungeons. No, I'm not going to even think of doing the raid because that's not how it works.
Yeah, the sieges right now, as of difficulty, sieges is the 3rd most difficult in level out there. It's around level 20 to finish it. Raids go all the way up to, I think Ragnaros is level 25, if I remember correctly.
I believe it is.
Which, again, that's also co-op, very similar to sieges. But you have more chances. You can keep going and you don't have to restart from the beginning like dungeons. Same for sieges, so you have several chances. I didn't mention that. And the most difficult right now is Onyxia, which has been in the game from the very beginning, which is level 30. And it is actually a single player mode, so not a co-op.
Okay.
But it is... you need to be very high level to do Onyxia.
Okay, all right. So more grinding or swiping, whichever your preference is.
Yes. The idea is that if a mission says that you need to be level, 15, to get to properly do it without sweating too much, be level 17. So a couple of levels above, you still get, I believe, full experience, but it makes a little bit the life easier. And you can just go through everything, get the rewards, get the gold, upgrade the stuff, and then go back and do at the proper level.
I'm all about no sweating, so let's go for level 20, and we'll hit those running. There is a good feeling when you are going through a map and a boss shows up, and you just start dropping minis because you're like sort of trying to feel it out, and then the victory screen just comes up, and you're like, oh, I won.
Yes,
it is a good feeling.
Oh yeah, totally.
It happens occasionally, so we like that. All right, I think that's all of the PvE stuff. There's upgrading, there's maps, there's different game modes, but ultimately it boils down to install the game, create an account, log in, and just play. And the game is exceptionally good at walking you through what it has to offer. It explains all of these things as you get to them. You don't have to watch a 35-minute guide on YouTube. You don't have to read, methods. Here's how to best play Warcraft Rumble. You don't even need to listen to this podcast. You can just, although if you're hearing me say this, I guess you've already heard the podcast. Exactly. But you can just log into the game and play. And I think that is one of its strengths. Before we talk about PvP, because I'm going to be honest with you, it's my least favorite aspect of any game I play, except Overwatch. Well, no, even Overwatch. It's my least favorite part.
It's the only part.
So I enjoyed Overwatch. Sidebar. I enjoyed Overwatch immensely until the very first time they had an Uprising event where you fought the Omnics in a 4 versus 4 player PvE mode. And from that point forward, the PvP version of Overwatch was ruined for me because I knew I could have a 4-player co-op PvE mode with scaling difficulties, and I couldn't play PvP anymore. It ruined it. I'm not very good at PvPs, you see, and so that's why I don't enjoy. And I'm not good at it, and I have anger issues, and I get frustrated very easily. So before we talk about PvP and my blood pressure goes up, I want to talk about your armies. So you guys both obviously play this game a lot. Do you have a favorite army comp?
Personally, I do. Honestly, I have one favorite army per leader, per faction.
Okay.
Because, of course, you tend to try to maximize...
That's a cop-out. I want your favorite. I want your favorite army. Don't give me I like all of them, so I designed something for everyone. Who's your favorite? We're going into a 3 versus 3 PvP tournament. The 3 of us... You have to pick one army, one leader, one army.
Well,
who are you picking?
My favorite then is going to be Rand Blackhand.
Ooh.
From BlackRock.
Okay,
it's a 6-cost flying ability that with special perks after he gets enough damage, the dragon disappears, but you still get the miniatures going forward. So you have a double miniature in one, two miniature in one. So
Okay.
he starts as a dragon with flying and ranged attack, and then he becomes a smashy person when he gets dismounted, which is really good.
I
And
like
I
it.
currently use, I'm literally looking at now, Fire Hammer, which is foot DPS that has ranged attack that increases on speed the more the attacks. My favorite miniatures of all of them is the Pyromancer, very powerful fire mage that has fireball that explode with AoE effect, which is fantastic for taking off groups. I have one of the latest new miniatures that they added post launch, which is the Chimera, which is a flying beast that costs 5 and has 2 heads. One is electric, one is poison, and it keeps alternating both abilities. So it kind of fits different mechanics. So you can stun with the electric and do AoE damage, and you can poison over time with the other one. The only downside is a bit fragile, but that's okay. I have the well pegs that you place, and people are forced to attack them. And when you attack the eggs, all the whelps come out. Not even like when Leroy Jenkins was, attacking, and the whelps basically stop, or even when they die, the eggs they explode. So it's a trap. You kill the eggs because you have to. The eggs explode, and then the whelper come and they stop you. So it's a double trick, and it costs very cheaply. It's a 3 gold miniature. Then I have, like I was talking earlier with these, a spell, which is Blizzard. Lots of AoE damage, slow them down, and if you place it correctly, it takes off a good chunk of miniature because it stays in a place, and all the miniatures that passes inside gets the damage. So if there's like a chokehold on the map, you just place the Blizzard there, and you just take out an entirety of miniatures. And lastly, I have my favorite tank, the Stonehoof Tauren, which charges in combat and stuns and blocks people and push them back, and is just great. That's my favorite one.
Okay, good answer. I take it. Ease. Hit me. Who's your top captain, top leader, and what army are you running?
I think right now the one I'm enjoying the most is Hogger. It's Hogger as a leader is he's a big beast, and the more you play him, the more health he has, and the faster he runs. Which means that like at 3 minutes into the game, he like blazes through the entire map, which is hilarious and amazing. And he's very tanky, and he does AoE damage, so it's perfect. So the longer a game goes, the more likely I am to snowball. Because Hogger gets super tanky, which is a great feeling. I'm a huge fan of Unbound minis, which means you can put them anywhere on the map. So I almost always have the mini in basically all of my armies. I have the skeletons.
Which
okay. It's 3 little skeletons that you can place wherever, and they just start hammering away. And then I have a talent that makes it that if I place it near a tower or a meeting stone, which is just kind of where you can keep spawning, I get 5 of them, so they're great for taking down towers. I have some murlocs, which they just go and throw some spears at people. The fish people we're talking about, they just throw spears. I have another gnoll, just a gnoll brute, which is the second Hogger, basically. It's great. I have Blizzard again, because Blizzard is probably my favorite spell. I use it in every single one as well. I have another Unbound mini, more skeletons, but there also has a healer and some ranged attacks. And then I have a Griffin Rider, which is a flying ranged attack dealer, which is great for whittling down big tanks on the enemy team. The one issue with this army is that I can't have my fire elemental, which I would argue is the best mini in the game. I don't like... Okay. If you can choose one mini to just blaze through and level up, I would say get the fire elemental, because it's tanky, it does AoE damage, and it lives forever. It's great.
And I would just like to point out here you can see on my bookshelf there is a
There
fire
it is.
elemental over there, directly from Rumble. This is why it's Bis. But yeah,
I love it. I'm thematic. I've been playing the first army I started with is the army I stayed with, and it's all based around the Unbound drops as well. I like Baron Rivendare.
Same.
yes.
He's an undead leader. His ability is that he summons skeletal minions at buildings you own. I have an ability on him called Chill of the Grave that actually turns those into skeletal mages instead of the skeletal warriors. I run skeletons. I run the skeleton party because being able to drop enemies anywhere, you can drop them on a chest for easy gold. You can airdrop them in for support when people are in need of support. The only thing you need to be careful of with Unbounds, and any mini you have, really, but when you first drop your mini on the map and it starts to spawn, they take double damage until they're fully spawned. So if you are dropping Unbounds near enemies, you want to make sure there's enough distance that they're going to fully spawn before they get up, or they get cleaved down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But I'm thematic. So because it's Baron Rivendare and it's undead, I don't mix and match. I'm running full undead. I got the meat wagon in there. I'm running a ghoul. I got a plague farmer. Winged aerial units are tough. There have been maps when it's been very aerial heavy, and I will drop the plague farmer for I think it's a troll hunter. He throws spears.
The troll hunter, yes.
But I enjoy it. I like it's just a swarm of undead. It's just, I feel like the Lich King, basically, who, if you're listening, Blizzard would make a great leader.
It's true. I played the entire, my first playthrough of all the campaign missions before heroic missions was Baron Rivendare. Solid,
was it? Nice.
Solid army.
Yeah. And he looks cool. And all right, we'll talk about PvP and then we'll talk about graphics. Who wants to break down the PvP for me?
Well, the PvP is literally human versus human in terms of what type of game mode it is. There is no timer when it starts, so the moment you get thrown into the arena, that's when the game starts, because usually there's a countdown before, you can have a look at the map, see where are the spawns. So unless you know already the map, you will not know how the in PvP is set up, but usually the map stays for like a certain amount of weeks, and then you can just they rotate around. And maps have modifiers as well on the map, so sometimes there are towers that are more strong than the usual ones, and you have to deal with that. But it is, I choose a leader, you choose a leader, we queue up, and we might end up playing against each other. So ready, set, go. The mechanic is the same, but your army level will not matter, because all the miniatures in your team will have level 1 at the very beginning, at least. You still keep the unlocks of your special abilities, but your power level is the same for me as it is for you. So if I played 24 hours a day and you played 1 hour, we join a PvP, and my army will be D-class to level 1 on all of mine, and your army will be level 1. So there is an even playing field for that.
I think they made some changes to that recently.
Okay.
The latest season now, the level of your army is divided by 3, rounded down.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it actually...
I missed that.
It's pretty new, I think. I would like to say that it's pretty new.
So this is why I probably shows how much PvP I played.
Yeah, and I think that's when your rank is below 3,000 honor.
Yes.
Is when they do instead of level 1, they do the divide by 3 rounded up. So how does this? So like I said, I'm not good at PvP. Am I going to just queue up for this and get thrown in against a rank 1 world title winner of PvP,
no,
or is there some kind of matchmaking?
There's matchmaking all the time. I am rubbish at PvP, but when I was playing PvP, I was able to win games, lose games. I will say a 50-50 sometimes, because the way you build your team for PvP is map based, because the map is always the same for a certain amount of period of time. So you need to exploit as much as possible the map. So your team composition always is going to be different. There was a map, I don't remember which one, probably was Arathi, that had a gold spawn in random positions. So I was using the Blackrock Miner which is an unbound miner that you just drop on top of the gold vein, farm a lot of gold, then cast your big miniatures and go and win the game. So that encourages you to change your play style according to the map, because you don't know which opponent you're against. So you cannot base your team against this boss does that, so I need to have a lot of range. You don't know which boss is, so you need to play against the map to get the most out of it. So whatever your opponent is playing, you can still overcome by casting all your minions. This is why, for example, in PvP, I usually use Baron Riven there, because there's a lot of cheap minions, all the skeletons, all the unbound, you can drop them. I use the Prowler as a tank because it's faster and charges and stuns things, so it can just go and take control of a tower on his own. And from there on, we establish a foothold, an advanced foothold on the map, and we just flood the map with stuff and things. So it's always, you need to understand how the map works before you can create your team.
No, thanks. Ease. I want to talk about graphics. That's enough PvP. Warcraft, Blizzard games are all known, like wildly world renowned for their graphic styles. Overwatch, Warcraft, StarCraft, Diablo, all of them. Warcraft Rumble is no exception. How would you describe the graphic design of Warcraft Rumble?
Well, we mentioned it briefly earlier. I don't think we actually explained like the setting for the game. The setting for the game is that it's a little like arcade game in like the cellar of a fantasy tavern. So like a pinball machine, but instead of pinball, it's a bunch of like miniatures that are being built and put on a map. And so everything they're not just called minis, they're literally minis, like miniatures. They all have, like, the arms are separate pieces, and in all the trailers, of course, they play into this where they pick them apart and like they change pieces, which you can't really do, unfortunately. But it's very stylized to look like miniatures, to like the ones that you would like play in D&D or whatever, but all themed around World of Warcraft. And yeah, I mean, it looks fun. It's a vibrant game. It has so much color, and it does really just play into that playfulness of miniatures and an arcade game. And yeah, I mean, the graphics are good. It's a phone game, but it looks good. And Blizzard is known for their stylized, because they're so stylized, they can make it look good without really being that like high performing. You don't need to have a high performing phone. I have a super old phone and I'm just fine. It kind of reminds me in some ways of the art style of Overwatch, since we were talking about that earlier. Just the angles and the half smooth corners and stuff like that. So that's how I would describe it.
That's a great description. I think it's beautiful. I love it. It's a lot of fun. And they are, like you mentioned, they are actually minis. Wochi, if I wanted to get does Blizzard sell these? Can I buy the Warcraft Rumble minis somewhere? Is there a store that I can get them at?
Unfortunately not.
Damn it.
There are ways around it, because of course they have published in waves all the 3D files for 3D printers. So as I was hinting earlier, this one you can see over here is a 3D printed miniatures that I printed with my resin printer, and you can basically print it and paint, and you can have your own collection of all the miniatures in the game, I believe, or a very good percentage of them are in the game as a file. Probably not the latest ones, but they are all printable. So if you have a 3D printer, or if you have a friend that can make you a favor, you can have them for yourself, and you just go there and paint them. And it's just so fun. I've been painting quite a lot of them because I was grateful also to receive a nice little package from Warcraft Rumble that contained a lot of fancy and pretty miniature. So it was a nice touch, because as Ease was saying, they are also, I would say, easier to paint due to the fact that not only are they quite big and chunky, which is very good for those who like, these are not for show. My eyes are going down the downhill. My hands are shaking because I am getting old. So having something that is big and chunky to paint with fine brushes is a refreshment. But also being very cartoony as a game style, it doesn't have to be painted in a realistic way. So all the techniques you use for highly detailed miniatures for other games are somehow not really needed for painting. I don't know, Tyrion.
Mhm.
It looks great with basic techniques, and that's the best part for it, probably.
Cool. I love it. I think it's a great gather. I do like the miniature aspect of it. Being able to, I don't have a 3D printer, but knowing that you can get these 3D these files for 3D printing for free, direct from Blizzard, I think that's a huge advantage as well for people that like to have things on their shelf. They like to have a physical collection. I think that's very cool. Guys, I think that's about it. I think we have talked about Warcraft Rumble enough. I just want to get final thoughts. Anything you think we missed from each of you? Ease, what do you think? Warcraft Rumble, is this a must-play game?
I think that if you enjoy tower defenses, while it's more of a tower offense, I guess, there's probably a real term for this. This is the first, like, I never played.
That's the term. We're using tower offensive now.
Tower offensive, great. But I never played the Clash Royales. I never played any of those games. But if you're into those, this is a really good version of that. It's varied enough. It has so many different things you can do. I want to touch a little bit more on the monetization, just because I really do believe that they've done a really good job of the monetization. If you don't spend a cent, you'll be fine. It'll take longer, and you might have to do a little bit more grinding, but a big part of the game anyway is just doing different types of content to grind levels. They also have a really affordable, like, I can't remember what they call it now because it disappears after you buy it, and I bought it, but it was like $15, $20, where you get 50% increased experience and 50% increased gold from everything. And even if you wait and like want to try it out first, and like, because that's what I did. I played it for a couple months and then was like, okay, you know what? I've put enough time into this game, and I will continue to put time into this game, that this purchase will be worth it for me. But also I want to show the developers that, hey, I enjoy this game. And so that's always a big part of like why, if I spend money in a game, it's because I want to show the developers that I like it. But for this purchase in particular, there's like, you can only buy this once, and it's kind of their starter package or something. And it collects the gold, accumulates that you would have earned if you had bought it from the very beginning. So even if you haven't bought it, you've completed the entire story, and you're like, okay, you know what? I'm getting into the heroics now. I want more gold. And you buy this thing, you get all that 50% extra gold that you would have earned if you'd bought it earlier. You
That's
won't
huge.
get the experience. That you do miss out on the experience, but it's still a pretty good deal if you want to try it out first. Eventually, just to talk a little bit more about the monetization, like most of these games, there are other currencies as well. There's the Arclight energy. We already talked about the Arclight, right? And that's what you use to upgrade minis further, aside from just experience. And so you get some of that just passively, but if you start upgrading all of your minis, you will probably start running low. I haven't yet. I've only ever spent that $20 at the very beginning, and not a cent since, and I'm still fine. But eventually, if you played enough, you might run out of those things. So for most players, I don't think you need to spend any money. If you like it, I would encourage you to spend $20, just because it'll make a lot of things easier for you. And then eventually, if you like no life this game, you will need to start spending money, probably, unless you want to grind for hours and hours and hours and hours, which you can. But that's kind of my big picture. I really like this game.
I bought the same package, and is a lifetime buff that you get on your account, which is amazing, and is also, as he said, is retroactive. I think I also bought additional packages, but because they were so dirty cheap that you think, okay, I spend £5, £5 British pounds and I get a bunch of gold. I get this hero with 4-star for the next level, because it goes up in levels and you get stars, and you spend the stars to get a different variety for your minion. So it sounds like a no-brainer. Or I was missing, it was Beast Week for the dungeon, and I was missing a third leader for that, and it was an offer, cheeky offer, that says spend this much money, unlock the last leader you need, so you can do all the 3 dungeons with all the 3 leaders, and so yeah, go on, give me this free leader. And he starts already with a lot of experience, so it is easier to prepare a team and go straight into a dungeon and unlock all the additional slots. So but I probably spent I will say 40 British pound in total since it launched, which is not even close to any other games I ever spent in terms of monetization. So it is very good.
Excellent. And would you say, what's your overall thoughts? Have you enjoyed your time with Warcraft Rumble?
Absolutely, 100%. I was playing on my commute to work every day. I like you. I was playing in other rooms of the house. Let's not return to the initial part. Right. I maybe was doing before going to bed one of the dailies, just making sure that you keep going for that and such. But it's literally one of those games that you can pick up and put down whenever you want. The only critique that I have, and there's only one very little critique, is that guilds are too small. There is a maximum of 15 players for the same guild. 20 now. Even smaller. It's still small. Because you end up... at the very launch, it was very easy to complete the season, to unlock all the stuff, because everybody was rushing to it. But then it starts, okay, is everybody in the guild still playing? And yeah, there were the hardcore one, yes, but you can still kind of struggle if you want to complete all the goals, to have a consistent player base that keep playing. Not that there is nobody playing, absolutely, but having the same commitment for everybody all months, all days can become problematic. But if you had a bigger guild, you have more people, and that becomes easier. So that was a bit of a, apart from that, is a brilliant game.
And I'll do a plug. We have some open spots since they opened up to 20 from 15. So if you want an active guild, we always finish the reward track. Search for Banished, and you can join us.
I'll do it right after the show.
Or search for Dungeon Dojo.
Do you also always complete the things? Well, I actually was in a guild. I was in my guild going into this month. I left it. I started a Cartridge Club guild for the Cartridge Club game of the month, and I'm about to leave that to join Banished.
Fantastic.
You bastard.
Well,
I love Warcraft Rumble. I think it's a lot of fun. I like spending money, so anytime a new option comes up to spend some, I do. If I log in today and it says for $7.50 I can get something, I'm gonna. That's okay. That's what brings me joy. So that's where it's at. And for those of you who are playing this game, you're like, man, it sounds great, but I don't want to play games on my phone. I don't like mobile games. That's cool. Blizzard's got you covered, because Warcraft Rumble is coming to PCs. And you will be able to play it on your PC soon. PM. Yeah. Anyway, folks, that is the whole show. Thank you so much for being here, Wochi and Ease. Can you tell everybody where they can find you? We'll start with Ease.
You can find me, the easiest is on Twitter. I'm just going to keep calling it that. Ease, as in easy, just EASEBRP from Bonus Roll Productions. You can also find me hosting the Realm Maintenance podcast about all Blizzard games, and the Wrath Babies podcast all about World of Warcraft, usually about Mythic Plus and Endgame in retail. You can also occasionally catch me streaming and some YouTube videos on Gaming with Ease on both YouTube and Twitch.
He's definitely worth a listen. Ease is a fantastic podcaster, far superior to myself. Wochi, where can we find you?
Well, mostly you can find me on Twitch under Wochi TV. On Twitter, I am with my extended name, which is Wochiniman, which is WOCHINIMEN. It's a long story. Don't ask. I can't change it back because the Wochi TV apparently is taken for some reason on Twitter, so I can't have it. But that's okay. I also stream on TikTok, same name, Wochi TV. But mostly you can find me on the Dungeon Dojo Discord, running keys, running raids, running events, running around like a headless chicken most of the time. But that's how you can find me.
Excellent. And if you're looking to reach me, I'm at Cartridge Bros. Forever and always will be there. Cartridge Club, thank you so much for listening. Thanks everybody for being here. I don't remember how I used to end these shows, so I'm just going to sort of ramble off until it's done. We'll see everybody next month.
Bye-bye.
Bye.